I am Steve.
It all starts with Steve, a blocky kid with big dreams of becoming the greatest miner the overworld has ever seen. Think endless mountains, caves, and forests just begging for some serious digging. But every time Steve tried to sneak into the local mine, a grumpy old miner shut him down. No kids allowed. Miners only, Junior. Years roll by, and Steve grows up, only to end up selling doorknobs. Yep, doorknobs. Day in, day out. King of the dull and mundane. Then one lonely lunch break, nostalgia hits hard. Steve remembers his dream, throws down the knobs, and marches back to the mine. The old man's still there, but Steve's not backing down this time. He digs like his life depends on it, because, well, it kinda does. One day, he unearths two weird artifacts, a crystal cube and the legendary creation cube. Naturally, he slams them together, and boom, a glowing portal opens to a magical place, the overworld. A realm where literally anything can happen. First thing he finds, a fabulous pink sheep. Using its wool, Steve builds not one, not two, but 3 stylish homes. From doorknob salesman to real estate mogul in no time. On his adventures, Steve meets a wild wolf that tries to eat him, until Steve tames him with a juicy femur bone and names him Dennis. Now best buds, they build wonders and shape the world, soon joined by a whole crew of peaceful animals. But paradise never lasts. While exploring ancient ruins, Steve finds a mysterious chest, and inside, another portal. This one leads not to sunshine and sheep, but to the dark, twisted nether. Welcome to the underworld, a dark, hostile place where creativity goes to die. It's home to the Piglins, greedy, ruthless, bacon-colored bullies who worship Malgosha, a powerful sorceress with a tragic backstory. She dreamed of being a dancer, but her pig peers laughed her off. Even her own dad called her a disgrace, and kicked her out. Harsh much. Fueled by rejection and pure rage, Malgosha went full villain mode, obsessing over the creation cube. With it, she planned to rule every world in the Minecraft multiverse. But Steve? Not on her watch. Brave, clever, and maybe a bit panicked, he escaped with the cube and entrusted it to his loyal buddy Dennis. Mission: hide it on Earth where no pixelated villain would ever find it. Dennis nailed it, burying the most powerful artifact right under Steve's garden. As long as it stays there, the world's safe. Cut to years later. Enter Garrett Garrison. This guy revolutionized arcade gaming with a bizarre talent, chucking trash with laser accuracy. So good, they called him the Trash Man. Sounds legit. Fame, fortune, sponsorship deals. He had it all, until an eviction notice crushed his dreams. Down and out, Garrett hit up a local auction hoping to flip some relic for quick cash. A staffer whispered about a mysterious artifact, supposedly priceless. Intrigued, Garrett snagged it for $900 on a 6-month payment plan. Sweet deal, right? He opens the box. Empty. Or so he thought. Frustrated and thinking he'd been scammed, Garrett slammed the lid, missing the creation cube hidden in plain sight. Classic. Nearby, someone overhears his money woes and suggests, maybe stop chasing magic at sketchy auctions. If only Garrett knew what he had. Meanwhile, Henry and his sister Natalie have just moved to the city after losing their mom. Life's been rough, but Natalie's hustling with a modest job just to keep a roof over their heads. Their new apartment comes with Dawn, an overenthusiastic real estate agent oozing welcome home. Next morning, Natalie tries to bring some normalcy, makes breakfast, packs Henry a pizza to share with new classmates. Henry, still weighed down by grief and change, barely mutters thanks before heading out. Across town, Garrett is cleaning out junk when Henry walks into his shop. The kid offers a slice of pizza for some life advice. Garrett, ever the showman, calls himself a salesman in the game of life, and says his wisdom costs $50 an hour. Still, he drops some gems. Friends are like puzzles. Sometimes you've got all the pieces, sometimes you're just missing one. And this classic, you can't be a team by yourself, but with just one more, you can beat anything. Inspired, Henry leaves the pizza as a silent thanks and heads to school with a little more hope. At school, Henry met the principal, who handed him his name tag, and casually dropped a weird fact. Her marriage had been dead for years, but they stuck it out for their dogs. Because nothing says true love like mutual puppy affection. Later, Henry's classroom was a vibe. The teacher? Sarcastic to the max, openly complaining about hating his life. Definitely not your average educator energy. During a group project, Henry accidentally placed a part wrong, and suddenly the jetpack prototype went berserk. Right then Natalie, working nearby, got caught off guard as the out-of-control gadget crashed into her building. Cue principal freakout mode. She demanded to talk to Henry's guardian, fast. Panicking, Henry called Garrett and begged him to pretend to be his uncle. The moment Garrett heard Henry had $26 cash on him, he was sold. While trying to explain the chaos to the principal, Henry spotted a strange cube tucked away in Garrett's shop. Curious, he asked about it. Garrett just shrugged. Oh that? Selling it for $95. No clue what it does. Then, as they rummaged through some old boxes, they found an ancient instruction manual. And guess what? Big, bold warning. Under no circumstances should the orb and the crystal cube be combined. Never. Not even if you're broke and think there's treasure inside. Well, that sounds like a challenge, doesn't it? Naturally, ignoring the giant flashing warning like pros, Henry and Garrett decided to see if that mysterious cube actually had any powers. They headed straight to an abandoned mine, totally clueless that they were about to launch an adventure that would flip their lives upside down. Meanwhile, Natalie noticed Henry was MIA. Panicked and running out of ideas, she called Dawn, the overly enthusiastic real estate agent. Dawn whipped out a tracking app and found Henry, deep in that creepy abandoned mine. They dashed over just in time to see something seriously wild. The cube was glowing, shooting out weird energy beams, and straight up pulling Henry toward it. Without missing a beat, they all grabbed him. And boom, one by one, they got sucked into a swirling vortex and blasted through a portal straight into the overworld. Blinking in disbelief at this pixelated paradise, Garrett, never one to miss a chance, declared himself a gaming legend from '89. Classic. Soon, they bumped into the iconic pink sheep, giving them a curious stare. But wait, they weren't alone. A villager who spotted the portal opening decided to follow them to Earth, sparking a wild new connection between worlds. Meanwhile, deep in the bleak, barren nether, the piglins were fed up. No gold. Just endless digging and zero luck. Not exactly the dream job. Malgosha was on another rampage, threatening the piglins with something worse than death. If they didn't strike it rich soon, she promised to turn them into juicy pork chops. Yep, dinner plans got real. Then suddenly, she caught a signal. The orb's portal was starting to flicker back to life. She stormed to confront Steve, still her prisoner. No dramatic showdown though. She just let him go with a cold, brutal deal. Return what's hers, or Dennis, the loyal wolf, becomes bacon. Meanwhile, back in the overworld, Garrett was desperately trying to impress the pink sheep, begging for missions to find gold. Spoiler, nothing happened. Just crickets and awkward silence. Then, out of nowhere, Dennis the wolf charged in, let out a bone-chilling howl, and even the pink sheep backed off. The peaceful vibe shattered instantly. Creepy sounds rose from the shadows, hunter skeletons, giant spiders, zombies, and creepers, all charging for a full-on assault. While everyone bolted, Henry kept his cool. Using his brain finally, he started building block defenses like a pro. Garrett? Not so much. He hid, until a creeper exploded right next to him, leaving him dazed. His panicked scream gave away his position, and zombies quickly swarmed him. The pink sheep? Captured too. Just when things looked bleak, the rest of the group came charging in to save Garrett. The battle was fierce until bam! Steve showed up like a total boss, slicing through enemies with insane skill. Everyone was left slack-jawed. And then, just like clockwork, the sun rose, zombies burst into flames, and peace returned, at least for now. Steve laid it out straight. He was there for the Orb of Dominion. Deal was simple. He'd help them get back to Earth, but he kept the orb. Without the crystal cube, there was no safe way home, so the group had two options: retrieve it or find the one other way. Meanwhile, the villager who followed them through the portal got an unexpected welcome, a direct hit from the school principal's distracted driving. She quickly switched gears, playing it cool, and offered him dinner with a smile. Everyone's trying to sue me these days, but you seem like a reasonable guy. Back with the kids, they arrived at a peaceful village full of curious locals, and met some new allies: a legendary pig, a wise llama, and a giant iron golem standing tall as the village protector. To recharge, they all sat down for roast chicken, cooked over lava, still sizzling hot. Steve, ever cautious, warned them to watch out. Garrett, too proud to admit pain, took a massive bite and powered through, saving face like a champ. Meanwhile, in the nether, Malgosha was losing her patience. Fed up with failure, she summoned her most powerful general, Chungus, the strongest, and ironically kindest, Piglin in her army. She handed him a netherwart talisman to protect him and his troops from turning into zombified bacon en route, then gave the cold order: get the orb, whatever it takes. Meanwhile, in the overworld, the group trekked toward the legendary mansion. Along the way, Steve unlocked access to his magical inventory, a treasure trove of gadgets, tools, and all kinds of cool stuff. That's where they found the Ender Pearl, an epic item that teleports you wherever you throw it. Naturally, Garrett being Garrett, used it immediately, without realizing it was their last one. Later, Steve showed them how to craft tools from materials around them. Feeling inspired, Garrett built his own weapon, kind of clunky, but hey, it worked, mostly. Henry, ever the innovator, combined random real-world junk with Minecraft gear, and somehow created something surprisingly useful. Later, Garrett pulled Steve aside. He'd read the note hidden inside the orb, and bluntly asked about the rumored treasure. Steve admitted he had a stash of diamonds, but they were deep in the mines, far from the mansion. It'd be risky to get to them. Garrett didn't flinch. He looked Steve dead in the eye and said, "No diamonds, no orb." So, off to the mines they went. Just as they were about to leave, the piglins showed up. General Chungus introduced himself to Steve, polite, but with a tone that basically said, "I could end you in a blink." As usual, Steve tried to stay in charge, but Garrett, craving the spotlight, jumped in. Armed with his goofy DIY weapon, he charged Chungus, missed completely, and smacked Steve instead. Chaos erupted. Everyone split up in the fight. Natalie and Dawn stuck together, while Garrett and Henry got separated. Before splitting, they all agreed to regroup at the mansion. To help them escape, Steve handed out special flight wings, but only had 2 pairs. So in a surprise move, he tackled Garrett, and the two took off flying together. What followed was a full-on aerial chase. They zipped through walls, dodged sharp attacks, and pulled off wild stunts trying to outrun the Piglin army. At one point, they even flew over a peaceful field of sleepy pandas, completely clueless about the chaos above. Finally, Garrett and Steve activated water drop mode, splashing down into a lake, perfectly safe, not a scratch on them. Back on Earth, the school principal was enjoying a surprise date with a villager she'd accidentally hit with her jeep. Over dinner, she admitted she'd just gotten divorced. Her ex-husband just didn't have a personality, she said with a shrug. Meanwhile, in the overworld, Steve opened up about Malgosha. Back in the day, she dreamed of being a world-class dancer. Her moves were smooth, stylish, way ahead of the Nether's stiff traditions. But her dad kicked her out, humiliated by her passion. After that, she swore off beauty and creativity forever. Now, if she gets the orb, she'll destroy the overworld, and all its innocent creatures. Steve was torn. He needed the orb to save his beloved wolf, Dennis, still held hostage by Malgosha in the Nether. Meanwhile, Natalie and Dawn had an unexpected run-in, none other than Dennis himself. Recognizing the legendary wolf, Dawn cleverly offered him a bone to earn his trust. Touched, Dennis let them come closer. Knowing he belonged to Steve, they decided to follow Dennis, hoping he'd lead them straight to the rest of the crew. Back underground, the guys finally reached the diamond stash, but then Steve's sharp miner's nose picked up something foul, the unmistakable stench of netherwort. That could only mean one thing: the Great Pig was near. Tensions boiled over. Henry snapped at Garrett, furious they'd lost the diamonds. Garrett, bitter and burned out, shot back coldly, "I need those diamonds. It's the only way I stop being broke. You wouldn't get it. You're just a kid." Henry locked eyes with him and said, "Yeah, I'm a kid, but you're not alone. I'm your friend." Garrett goes quiet. Moved by Henry's words, something shifts, a new bond forms between them. Together, they start planning a daring mansion heist. According to Steve, the mansion has 3 levels. First floor, guarded by battle-trained villagers, tough, disciplined, no-nonsense fighters. Second floor, controlled by evokas, dark mages who summon pure nightmares. Top floor, home to the Enderman crystal, guarded by Enderman himself, a deadly killer who can take you out with a single look. Before they can make a move, the villagers ambush the adults, dragging them into a brutal underground fight club. No rules, all brawls. Steve stays hidden in the shadows, watching. Garrett is shoved into the ring, forced to face his opponent, a tiny zombie rider mounted on a vicious, bloodthirsty chicken. It looks ridiculous, but the little guy fights like a demon. Meanwhile, Henry sneaks up to the 3rd floor vault. The room is dark and eerie. Waiting for him, Enderman. With no way out, Henry grips his diamond sword and charges. The battle is wild, but with guts and skill, Henry comes out on top. His prize, the teleportation sphere, a mystical item that lets him jump instantly across the overworld, and maybe, just maybe, beyond. Exhausted but close to finishing their mission, the group escapes the mansion, only to run straight into their worst nightmare, Malgosha, the Piglin which has tracked them down using the orb's magical scent. With a wicked grin, she snatches the creation cube and the Enderman crystal. No fight, no warning, just arrogance. She vanishes into the Nether shadows like she's already won. Crushed, Steve and Henry try to run, knowing there's no way to get the artifacts back. But Garrett doesn't move. He stares ahead, eyes burning with defiance. "If I'm going down," he says, "then I'm going down with style." He throws his arms up and yells, "This calls for some heavy metal." With that, he sets off a massive explosion, a last-ditch sacrifice to stop Malgosha from wiping them out right then and there. The shockwave blasts everyone apart. The boys, bruised and barely conscious, land among the rubble. Moments later, Dennis finds Steve and nudges him awake. Steve slowly gets up. In the distance, Henry stirs. He's hurting but alive. Amid the devastation, they spot a strange little structure, a cozy mushroom house Dawn had built as a quick shelter. Reunited with Natalie and Dawn, the group finally realizes just how bad things have gotten. Darkness is spreading across the overworld. Malgosha's power is swallowing everything. It's time for Garrett, for the world, for everything they've been through. They decide to fight back. They start crafting new tools, stronger, smarter. Henry, holding the teleportation sphere, lays out a bold plan. He modifies the iron golems, upgrading them with super speed modules. Now, they have an army of raging metal giants, ready to take on the Nether horde. Malgosha sees them coming and laughs. Golems don't fight unless provoked. But one reckless little piglin throws the first punch, and that's all it takes. The golems snap, and the war begins. Furious, Malgosha unleashes her deadliest weapon, the Great Pig. But she didn't expect this. The heroes built their own ultimate golem, even bigger and stronger, forged from a secret alloy. The two beasts clash in a thunderous showdown that shakes the overworld to its core. Meanwhile, Steve confronts Malgosha, armored head to toe in hand-carved diamond plates, wielding a massive diamond blade. He looks like a legend, but Malgosha doesn't flinch. She knows her dark magic beats any blade. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Henry fights his way toward the Orb of Dominion, while Natalie ends up alone. Just as the great pig breaks free from the golem fight, it charges toward her. She's got no way to run. But before the worst can happen, a voice rings out. It's Dawn, standing tall on a hilltop, surrounded by a pack of wild wolves she somehow tamed and united. With one sharp whistle, she commands the attack. The wolves launch at the great pig, sparking a wild, primal brawl. In the chaos, the great pig, raging with fury, fires a deadly beam straight at Henry. He's hit and falls. The battlefield goes silent. Everyone freezes. Then, from the smoke and flames, Garrett returns, rising like a phoenix. He rushes in, grabs Henry, and pulls him to safety. With what strength they have left, the heroes regroup. They tear apart Malgosha's dark machinery and hurl the Orb of Dominion into the abyss. Suddenly, light begins to shine again. The overworld breathes. Balance is returning. But just as the orb falls, the great pig catches it. All hope seems lost, until the ultimate golem unleashes a devastating final blow, slamming the beast and reclaiming the orb once and for all. With the orb back in their hands, it's time for the final showdown. Steve steps up to face Malgosha. She's weak, cornered, defeated. He looks her dead in the eyes. It's over. You lost. Even now, she tries to trick him, 3 times lunging with a hidden knife, 3 times he blocks. Steve knows the fight is over, but instead of finishing her off, he walks away. He leaves her alive to live with the shame of her failure. With the threat finally neutralized, Steve says his goodbyes to the crew. He turns to Henry and offers him a place in the overworld, a chance to stay and start a new life. Henry smiles and shakes his head. I'm going home. Steve respects the decision. He reunites with Dennis, his loyal wolf, but then surprises everyone. He kneels beside Dennis and hands the leash to Dawn. I need a peaceful life. And so do you, Steve says with a soft smile. He hugs Garrett, calling him a true friend and brave warrior. He thanks Natalie and Dawn for their courage. He watches them step through the portal one by one. Just when he's about to return to his quiet life in the overworld, Steve pauses. He looks around, thinks for a second, and with fresh determination, walks through the portal to Earth. Days later, everything's changed. Garrett's leveled up big time. His shop is now a total hotspot. He's a master of hustle and gaming. Together with the squad, they launched a brand new video game based on their wild adventure. Life couldn't be better. Dawn ditched real estate and now lives for adventure. With Dennis by her side, they bring the party wherever they go, just like her new catchphrase says. Natalie opened her own self-defense school. She's a local hero, a community icon. And Henry? He finally got that jetpack working, soaring through the skies, living his dream. Meanwhile, love has blossomed between the villager and the school principal. Now he speaks fluent human, and she's learned villager since they met that wild night. He takes her hand, gets down on one knee, and pops the question. She smiles, nods, and says yes. Steve visits his old house, which is now occupied by a woman named Alex. He tells her, "This is my house." She smiles and asks, "Did you come for the old box that's been lying in the storeroom for years?" Steve's eyes light up. Overjoyed, he nods. The movie ends.